Welcome everyone, the throngs, the multitudes.
Well, there are a few more.
There are a few stragglers coming in, and there's only one of us here. Is that a song? Yeah.
There's only one of us here? Yes, that's right.
There's only one.
There's only one.
There's only one.
We are going to practice ease today. I was guided in 2010 to change my last name to Grace. And the inspiration sort of came right in and said, you are an embodiment of grace. And a year later, I woke up and the same voice said, okay, you got the grace idea, but you don't realize that ease is how grace shows up in human form. In other words, when you allow grace, things tend to be easy. Graceful and easy are synonymous, was what Spirit told me. And I thought, well, I'm not really doing a good job on this ease thing. So I made ease, and it's one of God's traits. It's one of the traits of being in co-creative harmony with the universe, is to allow things to happen easily, to not resist them, to not judge them. Things move easily. So I made it a practice, and relaxing my body, relaxing my mind, relaxing into the flow of goodness. Goodness is already here, there's nothing to fear. I'm going to clear whatever's in the way of me knowing I'm okay and letting life be wonderful every day. And getting out of the way and letting Spirit pay. So anyway, all of that happened, and I was sitting on the East Coast. Every Memorial Day weekend, I lead a couples retreat with my friends Joyce and Mary Vassell at a place called Rowe Camp and Conference Center in Massachusetts. And each year I find a creative and interesting way to get from Rowe, Massachusetts to my mother's apartment in Manhattan. I spend a few days visiting my mother, and sometimes I rent a car and take it to Rowe, or I somehow work it out so that I get to New York. But this particular time I had lots of books and lots of CDs in 2 suitcases, and they didn't sell very well at this workshop. And I picked up my suitcases on Monday morning, and I thought, I cannot imagine taking public transportation, and I will not. My back hurt. And my spirit said, no way, Jose. Lay down your burden and be open to a miracle. So I didn't know what I had said yes to, but I knew that I had said no to lugging these 2 heavy bags through New York City. And I also knew that I had faith, that I had vision, that I had a belief that anything was possible. And I walked into the retreat that very hour, and somebody came up to me and said, so where are you going next when this is over? And I said, I'm going to my mother's house in Manhattan. And he said, oh, we're going to Manhattan. And his name tag said Connecticut. So I thought, oh, you're going to Manhattan? He said, yeah, we have an apartment on the Upper West Side. I said, oh, my mother lives on the West Side. He goes, oh, where does she live? And I gave the exact street address, and he goes, that's where we are going. And it turned out they had an apartment 3 floors above my mother in the same building. And they had room in their car for my luggage, and they graciously took my luggage. And I didn't have to lift a finger. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that? And I thought, if the universe is designed so that when we relax and trust, things like that just happen, I want to be in vibrational alignment. I want to be one who lets that happen on a regular basis. There's a line in the Course in Miracles that says, miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. I don't know what that means, but just that it's okay to anticipate good things happening and to allow them to happen and to trust that we're here to be a conduit so they do happen. And when they don't happen, that's just another step on the journey of learning to release fear. That's why we don't always get what we want, because it brings and stirs up our fears so that we can eventually release them. I believe that the only purpose I have on this planet is to walk without fear, to learn to drop my fears, and everything else is, what do we call it, icing on the cake. So here's a little ditty about fear. You ever want to know about the history of fear? The history of human beings on this planet? You might believe in creationism or in evolution, but listen to my story, and this is the truth. Gather, my friends, because the end times are here. Not the end of the world, but the end of your fear. So turn down the lights, make it dark now, I dare ya. Stick around for a while, and I'm going to unscare ya. Now, when you were young and most things were quite swell, fear knocked on your door with a product to sell. And like most good salesmen, he cast quite a spell while selling insurance called All Is Not Well. Now, All Is Not Well came in its own case. The case that there's danger all over the place. And after you bought it, your all is not well. You felt it your duty to share and to tell. And so mouth to mouth was how fear procreated. With no YouTube or Facebook to disseminate it, fear soon went viral all over the globe, using old-time religion to dispense and promote. Because fear knew the way to get globally big was to drive a false wedge between God and her kids. And that's how he came to be so domineering, by replacing God loving with, you must be God fearing. Now, then fear and religion began co-creating and cooked up a symbol of fear they called Satan. As if infinite love had a worthy opponent with pitchfork in hand who could pounce any moment. The concept was great for maintaining control, making people behave as if they're on parole. Because when God-fearing people are scared for their souls, they put much more silver and gold in the bowls. So business was booming and fear kept on spreading. And fear loved the credit the devil was getting. Because fear itself likes to stay hidden from view and play hide and seek in its host, which is you. Oh, I'm not afraid, I'm just angry, it shouts. I've been mistreated and need to speak out. Oh, I'm not afraid, I'm upset and I'm caring. There's so many disguises that fear enjoys wearing. He's proud of his wardrobe because he designed it. Though he might not admit it, fear's quite clothes-minded. So, he doesn't realize he's often dressed funny, wearing layers of worry, looking like a stress bunny. And when you're not looking, he dresses you too, in stress bunny outfits that don't become you. Because when you wear worry, it wears tight and stiff, from statically clinging to imagine what-ifs. Worst case scenarios fill your projector. Then fear steps in and says, don't worry, I'll be your protector. He shows you his life insurance policy and says, here's what you get when you sign up with me. You get top-notch, around-the-clock security, an armored alarm system on your body, and if you're harassed, I'm your personal bouncer. And for making decisions, I'll be your guidance counselor. No more will I let you take risks that could hurt you. Just stick with me, kid. I will never desert you. Now, all of your loved ones have already signed. Don't be a black sheep. Join the flock. You'll be fine. So, you signed up and breathed a big sigh of relief. Because you thought you'd feel safer with fear as your chief. But the contract had fine print too fine to be seen, and you didn't read the clause that denied you your dreams. From then on, heart's desires that came to be birthed were blocked by your fears before they could reach earth. It seems your new policy's whole life protection was more birth controlling than all contraception. How could you conceive of a life more abundant with fear in your ear like a cable news pundit who's yelling, I'm telling the truth? Fair and balanced. While drowning out most of your love, gifts, and talents. Now fear says, get real. That's his bottom line thing. And fear learned what's real from his friend, Stephen King, whose collection of books make outstanding addictions, as long as you realize you are reading fiction, which is what you can do with your own fear collection. Just transfer them all to your mind's fiction section. Because no matter how gripping a tale fear can tell, its original premise that all is not well is a bit topsy-turvy in this universe and deserves to be laughed off the face of the earth. And while you are laughing, you let in the light, which makes fear pack his bags and get on the next flight. Because he needs to feel needed, and when you choose joy, well then fear has no choice but to be unemployed. He used to feel needed when lions were chasing you, gathering speed with intentions of tasting you. But nowadays, most of the lions we find are fictional cats roaming around in our minds. And when you stop feeding those cats in your head, they just go away because they're not getting fed. And with a clear head, you are free now to choose a station that's broadcasting much better news. So you get off your couch and turn off your TV and tune into WLOVE. It's got no commercials and nothing to sell. Just a steady reminder that all is quite well. And all is quite well is insurance enough. You're already covered by a plan you can trust. You got Universal, the original plan. And there's never a moment that you're not in good hands. You're not buying fear's insurance scam, because you know every moment you are in good hands. The end. Or shall I say the beginning? Indeed. All right. We're going to look at and laugh at and gently release some ideas that get in the way between you and your peace. And they're old ideas. They come from the Mayflower. They come from Europe. They come from the Puritan strand of a belief system where it was accepted that we were separate from God, that we were sinners, that there was something bad about us, that we were unworthy, and that if we sacrificed really hard in this life, that we could feel some self-worth and then earn some good times after we die. Frequent flyer points. So our country was born out of what has been called the work ethic. And there are some beautiful things about the work ethic, and there's been some beautiful work done in its name. But we have gone to a certain level of extremism around this where many of us distrust something that manifested easily. We distrust ease as if it was the serpent in the garden, when it really is a very natural thing for things to happen easily, playfully, gently. In fact, I believe that most of the time we create suffering and drama in our lives, it's because in some way we're resisting what's natural. And just because, 7 or 8 billion people on the planet are believing in something that's not natural and therefore creating a very strenuous life, doesn't mean that it's natural. Doesn't mean that that's the way God's will, it doesn't make it right. Because 7 billion insane people are using their free will to create struggle. So, we are amongst the chosen ones, the ones who are choosing a different approach to life, learning to trust the universe, learning to play, learning to prosper from following our heart, learning to let go of guilt, shame, and beliefs that are heavy, hardening of the attitudes, hardening of the arteries, hardening these fatty deposits of guilt in the emotional body, coming from believing that we're separate from God, and that somehow we did this separation thing and that we're bad because of it. And the truth is that we're not separate, we never were separate. Maybe we've been pretending, and we got pretty good at it, we forgot to laugh at our joke, but we're learning and remembering now to laugh at the utter ridiculousness of separation and fear. So I've been using EFT in my life to unravel from beliefs that no longer serve me. I see a few heads going down. How many of you are familiar with EFT? And how many of you are unfamiliar and would like to know what the heaven I'm talking about? Oh. The emotional freedom technique is using tapping on certain acupressure points from the Chinese meridian system. Somehow it was discovered that these points and the tapping on them not only creates a lessening of stress and resistance on the physical level, but that it also can help emotionally release pain and sorrow and old hurt and grief and pockets of unwillingness to forgive and move on. So somehow when we've had disappointments that were really intense, especially the ones from childhood, they sort of stay in our body. The memories, it's like, there's a saying called post-traumatic stress, and it's used very often in the therapeutic world to describe people coming back from wars. But I kind of see everybody as having post-traumatic stress issues and needing to find new tools besides just thinking positive thoughts. Tools that help the body, the nervous system, release struggle as a way of life, release these pockets of pain that have been stored in the cells and the bones, so to speak. So EFT is one of the many tools on the planet now where you can self-administer healing and help yourself tremendously. Now, when I do it, I tend to complicate things a bit because I have a channel open and I get intuition as to where to go with people and how to get to core issues. So I make it really complicated, but it actually can be very easy. And if you want more information about it before the end of the workshop, I'll send you some websites and YouTubes that you could sort of train yourself how to do this. And on the other hand, it's so deceptively simple that a lot of people have spent a week tapping on themselves and not experiencing great results and concluding that EFT was not for them. And I feel that's partly my responsibility to introduce it in a way that you really get the power of it. You get where it can take you. Because I've used it on everything from bee stings to grieving processes and as I said, releasing old beliefs. It's really cool for that. So we're going to do a little work on the work ethic. Anybody want to do some work on the work ethic?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Are you proud of how hard you've worked in your life? Are you proud? I would rather be proud of how lazy I've been. I've been so wonderfully, deliciously lazy. But I haven't perfected my laziness yet. That's what this workshop is about, perfecting your laziness. And I'm joking, semi-joking with you, because the word lazy, it can be fear-based. In other words, you could be non-productive out of fear of taking action, fear of stepping out of your comfort zone. And that is not the lazy that I promote. The lazy that I promote is more of an affectionate, innocent, relaxing, and just letting yourself work in co-creative harmony and joy, taking steps towards your goals, indeed. But when you're working with the universe and not against it, it can be easy, and there can be lots of time to take bubble baths. I am sending you home today. All of you are going to have some different assignments. There'll be homework because it's a small group, so I can give you homework. But the big thing that we're going to all be asked to do is a bubble bath. And if that doesn't sound a little scary to you, I'm going to add incense, candles, rubber ducky. I'll just keep upping the ante until you go, wow, I don't know if I can do that. That sounds like hard work.
What about the tub?
What's that?
What about the tub?
The tub?
Yeah, we don't have a tub. We have to go to somebody else's house, sweetheart.
You know what? I'm just not going to go there. You will manifest a tub when you know you are worthy of tubbing.
Let's go tubbing. Oh, what a great thing to do. Call your friend up and say, hey, we need to do some tubbing. Can we come over and tub at your house?
You really should.
Yeah.
How long has it been since you tub? You really should.
Yeah.
I used to love to tub. I used to tub all the time.
I'm playing with the words here because the word should is usually indicative of why we're not tubbing. Because we have a whole list of have-dos and shoulds and try to be good, responsible people. But there's also the responsibility that we have to our inner child. The responsibility to nurturing ourselves. And those of you that want everything that we do to be in some way in service to others, because that's where we get our self-esteem, well, you can relax because nurturing yourself makes you the most available emotionally for others. And you have something to give once you've filled up your tank.
Like the airlines say, put your mask on first.
Put your mask on first and then give some oxygen to your children or anyone acting like a child.
And just watch a baby and see how much joy a baby can give people.
Yes,
It's just being itself.
indeed.
Joy magnets.
Joy magnets. So we're going to do some tapping on this belief of that our value comes from working hard, pushing ourselves past what's comfortable. That's where we get our self-esteem, or that's where we get our money, you know, because if you have a belief that you have to, she works hard for the money, then you'll have to work hard for the money, because that's what you believe. And you'll collect a bunch of friends and where everybody believes the same thing, so you have enough evidence to know that that's the only way you can make money. Make money. I want to give that up. I don't make money. Money's already made. I just want to attract, manifest, allow money. I choose to allow. So we're going to do some tapping. Now I got to tell you the points because some of you don't know it. So you'll be tapping over here. It doesn't matter which side of the body, doesn't matter which hand, whatever you're most comfortable doing. So you'll be tapping over here. That's called the karate chop point. Right? You can use 2 or 3 fingers or the whole hand. And then you'll be tapping over here. It's like the side of the eyebrow, closer to the third eye. And then on the side of one of the eyes. And then under the eyes. Under the nose. Chin. Collarbone point. For about 4 inches below one of your armpits. And then on the top of your head where your yarmulke would be if you were a nice Jewish boy like me.
I'm a nice Jewish girl.
Good.
But I'm not really. I am a mom.
You are in heart. All right, so those are the places that we're going to be tapping. And with EFT, you bring up the feelings, the energies of the old belief. You really acknowledge it and bring it up, and then you clear it. So the first part of this process, it may actually bring up some uncomfortable feelings, and actually some of you that are sort of rather focused on positive thoughts might not understand the value of speaking negative thoughts. But with the intention of clearing the energy field, the negative is spoken at the beginning of EFT. And I just ask you to trust me and trust the process and try something new. You don't have to do this again if you don't like it. But let's start. Yes, question?
Where on the collarbone?
Oh, you'll see me. I'll be tapping. You can just follow what I do.
That looks like the middle.
Is that the middle? Where is the collarbone?
It's right.
So we're talking about
It's,
the place
it's
in
from there to
between.
there.
In between, I guess.
It's
It's called the collarbone point because it's in between the two.
In between the two. Yeah,
Yeah.
in between, right here.
In between the 2 collarbones?
Yeah.
Um,
That's my neck.
Well,
maybe, just maybe I'm using the wrong words all these years, but I think it's called the collarbone point in Chinese medicine. So just go with it, tap where I
In the
tap,
middle.
and you'll be fine. You'll be safe.
Okay. Obviously, if
It's a
everyone.
thyroid. Yeah, absolutely. It's a thyroid,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's probably the thyroid.
I had a spiritual teacher in New York City in 1980s, and she said, start every day by tapping on the thymus and say, hello, thymus, thank you for taking good care of me. So I've been doing it. All right, so even though I've been taught that I'm only valuable if I work hard, speak it.
Even though I've been only valuable if I work hard
And push myself.
and push myself.
I choose to love and accept me.
I choose to love and accept me.
Even though I don't trust easy things.
Even though I don't trust
Easy money.
easy money.
Sounds sleazy.
Sounds sleazy.
Wouldn't want to do anything sleazy.
Would I would do anything sleazy.
And even though I've been taught not to trust easy things,
Even though I've been taught not to trust easy things.
I choose to love and forgive myself.
I choose to love and forgive myself.
Even though part of me might feel unworthy,
Even though part of me might feel
if
unworthy.
really good things happened
Really good things happen
that I didn't struggle to achieve,
that I didn't struggle to achieve.
I choose to release that unworthiness
I choose to release that unworthiness.
as I deeply and completely
As I deeply and completely
love, honor, and respect myself.
love, honor, and respect myself.
I've got to work hard.
I've got to work hard.
I got to work hard for the money.
I've got to work hard for the money.
I got to work hard for my own self-love.
I've got to work hard for my own self-love.
Because if I don't work hard,
Because if I don't work hard,
it's going to be a voice inside
it's going to be a voice inside
telling me I'm lazy,
telling me I'm lazy,
telling me I'm not enough,
telling me I'm not enough,
telling me I'm trying to get away with things,
telling me I'm trying to get away with
like taking the easy way out.
like taking the easy way out.
God forbid something should be easy,
God forbid something should be easy,
but God hasn't forbidden it.
but God hasn't forbidden it.
I have.
I have.
I've judged ease.
I've judged ease.
I've judged myself
I've judged myself
for wanting ease,
for wanting ease,
and I choose to stop that.
and I choose to stop that.
Releasing the judgment that ease is bad.
Releasing the judgment that ease is bad.
God is love,
God is love,
and love wants to take it easy
and love wants to take it easy
through me.
through me.
God is love,
God is love,
and God wants abundance
and God wants
to
abundance
flow easily
to flow easily
in my life,
in my life.
and I choose to let it.
And I choose to let it,
I choose to set it
I choose to set it
and forget it
and forget it
and just let it,
and just let it.
because I am worthy.
Because I am worthy,
Even if I don't perspire,
even if I don't perspire,
even if I don't work blood, sweat, and tears,
even if I don't work blood, sweat, and
even
tears,
if I just have fun
even if I just have fun
doing what I love,
doing what I love,
relaxing,
relaxing,
recreating,
recreating,
having fun,
having fun,
daydreaming,
daydreaming,
bubble baths,
bubble baths,
vacations,
vacations,
Cape Cod,
Cape Cod,
going with Darlene on her next cruise.
going on my next cruise.
I'm here to cruise.
I'm here to cruise.
I'm here for some cruising,
I'm here for some
for
cruise,
some relaxing,
some
for
relaxing,
some allowing.
some allowing,
And I'm willing
and I'm willing
to be an ambassador
to be an ambassador
of ease,
of ease,
to be a living, breathing example
to be a living, breathing example
of one who allows things to come easy.
of the one who allows things to come
I
easy.
am worthy and deserving
I am worthy and deserving
of good things
of good things
coming easy.
coming easy.
Nothing is too good for me.
Nothing is too good for me.
Releasing the work ethic.
Releasing work ethic.
The Puritans might have worked hard,
The Puritans might have worked
and
hard,
they found that they could survive.
and they found they could
And
survive.
I honor them
And I honor them
and my ancestors
and my ancestors
for learning how to survive,
for learning how to survive,
persevering.
persevering
Through persecution,
through persecution.
they survived.
They survived,
And they passed a baton to me
and they passed the baton to me.
and said, do something more than survive.
Do something more than survive.
You're the next generation.
For the next generation.
It's time to thrive.
It's time to thrive.
It's time to flower,
It's time to flower,
blossoming,
blossoming,
allowing that flowering
allowing that flower
to be easy,
to be easy,
to be gentle,
to be gentle,
smooth sailing,
smooth sailing,
to warm blue waters,
to warm blue waters,
ocean of God's love,
ocean of God's love,
ocean of abundance.
ocean of abundance,
And I claim it.
and I claim it.
I am worthy and deserving
I am worthy and deserving
of immersing my whole body
of immersing my whole
in
life
God's ocean of abundance
in God's ocean of abundance
without working hard.
without working hard.
Maybe joyful working,
Joyful working,
maybe effort,
maybe effort,
but no struggle.
but no struggle,
No pushing against the current.
no pushing against the
I
current.
am worthy and deserving
I am worthy and deserving
of all great things
of all great things
happening easily
happening easily
to me
to me
and through me.
and through me,
Relaxing my nervous system
relaxing my nervous system
and my mind
and my mind
to be a receiver
to be a receiver
of love divine.
of love divine.
This is the season.
This is the season,
This is the time
this is the time
for prospering,
for prospering,
for allowing great prosperity
for allowing great prosperity
to flow through me,
to flow through me,
to circulate.
to circulate,
And I celebrate,
and I celebrate,
and I circulate,
and I circulate,
and I gravitate
and I gravitate
towards abundance.
towards abundance.
Nice deep breath. How was that for some of you? I'd love to hear from that. First of all, there may be questions, but also comments. Yeah.
Well, in the very beginning, so I don't know what it was, but something came up and I wanted to start crying. But then I kept going and it went away.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was.
Yeah. It's gone. And that's the demonstration of how when you use a tool like EFT, it does happen that you can release things so quickly that it bypasses the need to analyze them or even understand them. So this is a quantum process, and it takes us through growth in a quantum way. And so it's helpful to understand that you don't need understanding in order to grow. In fact, understanding, at least on the intellectual level, often slows us down. If you can look at this metaphor, it's been helpful for me. And that is, if you're taking a walk and you step into, let's say, some dog poo, chances are you don't take home your sandal, scrape some off, and take it to a lab and want to know, let's see, it was a Cocker Spaniel, what kind of dog what kind of poo did I step in? I need to know all about this poo that I stepped in. Chances are you don't. You just scrape it off and go about your business. So, that's what we're doing with EFT and other tools like it. Scraping off the poo, letting spirit through. Scraping off the poo, letting spirit through.
There you go, another song.
Questions or comments about what happened for you?
I love using that tool for, see, I believe in belief-ectomy.
Belief-ectomies.
Yes.
I love that.
And so ever since I've really gotten into, oh, that's a belief getting in my way, then I go for belief-ectomies. And this was a nice, gentle belief-ectomy. Most ectomies are painful, but not belief-ectomies if you use this.
Belief-ectomies. Don't go home without one.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything else than what we were doing.
It was very meditative for you?
Yes,
You were very
no other
focused.
thoughts
Yeah.
came in.
Yeah. Very cool.
Can we do that without the tapping?
Yes, you can do it with your intention by focusing on the points with your mind. Other people just hold the points rather than tapping. If tapping is distracting for you, you can hold the point, take a deep breath, say your affirmation or whatever it is, and then move to the next point. So there are alternatives.
Are you in the center of your eyebrows or over an eyebrow?
The point is on the eyebrow but close to the center. That's the point, and then the next, yeah.
It'll come
You
back.
can rub the tip of your tongue.
Oh, I know. See? As we were going through it, it felt like you were
Yes.
And I had my eyes closed when we first started
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
and so when I opened my eyes, I realized you were all doing something else. I was sitting there going like this, and so I'm not. What is this the starting point?
Yeah.
You didn't go back to that.
No.
You
They-
start with this,
Yeah.
and then you go through the cycle, but you don't go back to this.
Yeah.
Until the very end, or-
You don't even go back to it at all. This part is usually 3 statements, and it's a very interesting psychological principle. It's a very important part of EFT. When you isolate the feeling that you want to let go of, or the belief that you want to let go of, to say something like, even though I feel all this grief, I choose to deeply love and accept myself anyway. Because we find that in the human mind, whatever you got going on that's not fun, that we usually add self-judgment to it. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't have this belief. I shouldn't be broke. I shouldn't. So the beginning of any healing process is the release of self-judgment that's on top of the problem. And that begins the healing. Make sense? Yeah.
So as you cycle through,
Mm-hmm.
you start with the negative release here.
We'll be doing this one or two more times, and then I'll send you home with some YouTube possibilities so you can really get more into this. I know why.
All sorts of stuff on the internet.
Oh my God, let me tell you.
I got the impression that you were going through the affirmation multiple times.
Yeah.
And so, and it seemed like it was connected to the cycle of tapping, not the case.
You're overanalyzing it right now. I do it, when I do it in a group, I'm reading the energy of the group, and the Spirit is guiding me to do it a certain way. I may never do it that way again.
All right.
Yeah. So another part of ease is going easy on ourselves. So let's look at the opposite for a moment. How many people here are very skilled at being hard on yourself?
Oh, yeah, since I mastered it, I've been giving it up, but I mastered it.
You mastered it, now you're letting it go, huh?
Yep.
Great. It'd be fun to be a dropout, like I failed at being hard on myself.
Yeah.
Couldn't master it. But it's something most of us have learned well, practiced in a disciplined way. I would consider it to be the most insidious addiction on the planet, and much more debilitating than a substance. And I've done some substance abuse work in my life. When I realized that beating myself up was actually the most insidious of all my addictions, I went searching for a 12-step group to handle that. And I couldn't find one, so I started my own. I called it Critaholics Anonymous. Because of that addiction to criticizing myself and others. So how many people here are Critaholics, recovering Critaholics? Yeah. So I wasn't always a Critaholic. I used to be able to enjoy a few harmless judgments of myself and others at parties. But then as it started to become an addictive force in my life, I'd wake up in the middle of the night judging myself. Thinking all alone. You know what I'm talking about? Getting in the car and thinking and driving. One day I was thinking and driving and I got pulled over by a policeman, and he had clocked me on his radar judging myself at 85 times per hour. And I didn't even know there was a rule about that. He said, get out of the car. So I got out of the car. He said, you're under arrest for inner child abuse, disturbing your own peace, and driving yourself crazy. And it was a Sunday, and when I told him I was on my way to my office, he added resisting arrest. So I had to go to court, and I was asked to be my own prosecuting attorney because they knew I had so much experience. And I said, yes, I agreed to prosecute myself, and I won the case. I was found guilty. But the judge said, you need a hospital, you need treatment. And they sent me off to a hospital that specialized in the treatment of what they thought I had, which was chronic critic syndrome. Very debilitating illness. And the doctors examined me, immediately placed me in the critical list. But young man, if you don't learn to be more gentle with yourself, you are going to have a cardiac arrest. He said, I see all the signs, hardening of the attitudes. Anal eyes. He had actually diagnosed my eyes as anal eyes. So I decided to rest my critic instead. And we're going to do some work on this, some fun stuff, but first I'll sing a song or two. Is everybody aware of your inner critic? Do you have an inner critic?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody? Because if you're not, raise your hand and we'll provide you with one.
Yeah, they're really prevalent between like
Prevalent.
3 and 7 a.m. They make a lot of noise.
They make a lot of noise, inner critics.
And then that hours. I try to sleep through it.
Yeah. I think you're talking about inner crickets.
Sometimes they use it, right? Yeah.
So the inner critic is the part of our mind that's sort of left over from the Puritan, it's the part of the mind that came over on the Mayflower, really, and that tries to keep you safe in what's perceived as a very dangerous world. Keeps you safe by being your coach. And as your coach, it learned how to support you by beating on you. Just an old way of doing things. It's time to give that coach new instructions on how to support you. So here's a little poem about it. I call the inner critic the ego in this poem. They're interchangeable in the context of this poem. Your ego will travel with you on this earth and be your companion for worser or worse. It pretends it's your friend, your bestest amigo, and it pours on the guilt. That's the mark of the ego. It's there to protect you and help you be strong, so it has to remind you, you've done it all wrong. You're weak and you're lazy and you don't have a clue. That's your drill sergeant ego trying to motivate you. The ego wants you to be all you can be, so it gives you these pep talks all day and for free. Oh, the places you'll go and the guilt trips you'll travel, as your ego plays judge and bangs down on its gavel. But you always can get some relief from your shame by projecting it onto the others you'll blame. For that is the ego at its beastiest best. It nurses its grievances close to its chest. Republicans, liberals, your parents, your ex. The world is just teeming with folks to correct. If only these fools could conform to your ways, you'd get on with life without further delays. The ego loves finding new gripes to complain about, turns molehills to mountains of yikes to feel pain about. Sometimes the ego stuff gets you so stuffy, you come down with a cold or an ouchie more roughy. But there's no time for rest, so get up out of bed. If you're just here and now, you won't get ahead. Your to-do list must buzz like the bees when they're busying. Keep filling those days till they're endlessly dizzying. Oh, the places you'll go, the people you'll see, all through the lens of, what's in it for me? Because the ego believes there is something it lacks, and until it is found, it won't let you relax. Perhaps you'll find it in the next one you date. True love at first sight with a soul kind of mate. The romance is hot till the climate turns cold, because when egos combine, they do not make a whole. It's fine till the love gets obscured by control, because when egos collide, they do not make a whole. So, the ego moves on, ever constantly striving, addicted to seeking, afraid of arriving. You're traveling fast at the speed of surviving, with fear in the driver's seat doing the driving. Perhaps you are on the fast track of success. You're constantly driven to be great, better, best. You're a mover, a shaker, a big-time achiever. You're a real self-made man, a dazzling diva. You're rich and you're famous, you make quite a splash. You're on top of the world and you're rolling in cash. You drive the right car. You've married the right spouse. Today, lunch with Oprah. Tomorrow, the White House. But at night, insecurity pays you a call, because you know any time that you could lose it all. Your shrink says to rest. Your spouse sure agrees. Your doctor says ulcers, take 14 of these. You know you should slow it down sooner or later, but your foot is just glued to the accelerator. Your ego consoles. Well, at least you're successful. It's a sign of success to be constantly stressful. You've made it to prime time and everyone loves you. But your self-esteem's based on what others think of you. And opinions can change in the twinkling of an eye, which is why you need meds just to sleep and get by. One day when you failed and succeeded enough, you witness your ego exposed in the buff. And you realize behind all its protective clothing that the ego is simply a state of self-loathing. And beyond that, you realize the biggest of deals. You've dreamt up the ego. It's not even real. So, for richer, for poorer, in all kinds of health, you make a commitment to loving yourself. You release the projections you placed upon others and find through forgiveness that peace is discovered. You realize the love that you searched for outside you is what you are made of and can't be denied you. So you let go your potions, your plans, your pills, put some logs on the fire and learn how to chill. Your old superstitions have gone up in smoke, like you can't rest in peace until after you croak. You no longer fear death, or for that matter, life, because you know that all matters are safe and all right. While resting in peace, you will soon be inspired to go out in the world with some newfound desires. Desires that spring from your heart and your soul. And wherever they take you, you're going there whole. Because your ego is now in the passenger seat. It rolls down the window and takes in the treats. You're not in a hurry. You're going there slow. Because the journey's as rich as the places you'll go. Where you are going, you don't need to know. Because the journey's as rich as the places you'll go. The journey's as rich as the places you'll go. Thank you. The tool in that poem that I encourage you to practice is witness, being a witness of the inner critic. Just witnessing without judgment, as if you were on an observation deck, listening to the chatter and being neutral about it. That provides space so that you can see it very clearly and you could feel its energy field. The energy of the inner critic is like a constant yakking, constantly looking through the lens of lack, of you not being good enough, not doing enough, not having enough, shoulding all over you all the time. That is what the inner critic does. It shoulds all over you all the time. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't give you a rest. And if you try to go in there and dismantle the inner critic, thought by thought, by replacing every negative thought with a positive, you're doing the ego a great service, because the ego loves a good fight when you resist it. When you resist your inner critic, well, you know what you resist persists. So the tool that I'm recommending is to observe neutrally, to witness it. That poem says, one day when you failed and succeeded enough, you witness your ego exposed in the buff. you do that, your witnessing presence, which is the Christ presence, which is your enlightened being, the witnessing presence that you are, transforms and heals the inner critic. You don't even have to start thinking positive. The observation will be enough to transform it. Subject is ease. Particular topic is going easy on ourselves, letting go of being hard on ourselves. And this is one of my songs called Handle Yourself with Care. Once I thought by now I'd be Mr. Functionality, perfect and complete in every way. But I still get lost and then get found as I walk the sacred stumbling ground. I have to reassure me I'm okay. I'm all grown up, the world can see, but that is just one side of me. I'm also a tender child, finding my way. I sometimes fumble in the dirt. I have a heart that can feel hurt. And so I hear the voice of spirit say, handle yourself with care. There's a precious child of God in there. Handle yourself with care. There's a precious child of God in there. There's a judge inside who's sometimes strong, convinced I'm doing my whole life wrong, so quick to rise up to my prosecution. As I grow, it's getting clear, the judge is just a voice of fear, and gentleness my only real solution. How can a child of God feel safe if I'm trying to whip myself in shape? There must be another way to go. The petals of my heart open in a loving, safe environment. A flower grows and blooms when it's given the room. Sing it with me. Handle yourself with care. There's a precious child of God in there. Handle yourself with care. There's a precious child of God in there. First person. I handle myself with care. There's a precious child of God in there. I handle myself with care. There's a precious child of God in there. Gotcha. When I was, I guess about 2 years ago, when my daughter was 2 years old, I was really frustrated by her. She was hitting me, experimenting with her power by hitting me. And I put my hand out, and I was about to hit her back. It was one of these like enlightenment moments where time just stops, and I'm looking at my hand. And I said, what am I doing? And my hand said, you're about to teach her a lesson. I said, what? He said, yes, this is how she's going to learn nonviolence.
Well, that's the way it was thought for a long time.
Isn't that interesting? So I put my hand down, made a commitment to never try to teach my daughter or anyone nonviolence by being violent. And then I looked at my inner critic and saw, oh, of course, that's what I do inside of myself. I try to get myself to learn something by teaching myself a lesson, by withdrawing love and patience and compassion, by withdrawing love. And why do I do that? Because that's what my parents learned from their parents and their parents and their parents. So we came into a culture that taught us that we learn our lessons through hardships, through being hard on ourselves, being hard on our children. We prepare our children for this cruel, hard world by being cruel and hard. And then guess what? First of all, it doesn't work. You know, kids nowadays do not, their system is not hardwired to be obedient out of fear or guilt. Maybe a few generations ago that worked, now it doesn't. And it doesn't work inside of your own skin as well. And it's a good thing that it doesn't work. We don't learn well through fear and guilt and inner criticism. We don't teach ourselves a lesson by withdrawing love. Because you could say the only lesson we're really here to learn is that there's never a reason to withdraw love. There's never a reason to stop loving ourselves, ever, and others. So let us have a good laugh at the inner critic. Let's learn to observe the inner critic and not give it the microphone, but just observe it, and then choose gentleness. If you can feel it in your nervous system, because when the inner critic is doing its thing and you're listening with obedience and trembling, you can feel your nervous system. You can feel what it feels like. You're actually being hard on yourself. And that hardness hurts your heart, and it causes tension in your body. And if you can be a good student of observing that tension, then you will automatically begin to relax and let that tension go and let that belief go that there's something of value to be gained by being hard on yourself. This is worth some tapping. You want to do some tapping on this? Let's do a, what do you call it?
Beliefectomy.
Let's do a beliefectomy on the belief that there's something to be gained from being hard on ourselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. If we didn't think there was value in it, we wouldn't do it. We'd walk away from it the moment we got that it had no value.
I think it might have started back when, this is going to hurt you worse than it's me. I'm doing it because I love you.
Yeah.
Don't love me, don't love me.
Right. Don't love you so much. You know, confusing love and pain gave rise to the whole industry of country and Western music. Confusing love and pain, mixing them together. And the blues.
Oh, yeah.
For me, and this is just my personal taste, I find the blues is more of a release of pain, a catharsis, whereas the country and Western seems to sort of reinforce it for me. So I don't know. It's like wallowing. Simmering, wallowing. You done me wrong. Please, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song?
Yeah, let's listen to it
So I
again.
can feel at home while I miss my baby.
It's my baby. So I can feel at home.
Would you be my new baby?
All right, tap where I tap and say what I say. Take a nice deep breath, relax the body. Maybe? Okay. Even though I've been taught that, it doesn't matter which side of the body, which hand, right? You just do whatever's comfortable. So even though I've been taught that being hard on myself is a good thing,
Even though I've been taught that being hard on myself is a good thing.
somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
If I don't do it,
If I don't do it,
I'll be a no good lazy bum.
I'll be a no good lazy bum.
I'll get away with murder.
I'll get away with
If I'm not hard on myself,
I'm not hard on myself.
I don't know what I would do.
I don't know what I
But I can't trust myself,
But I can't trust myself.
so I better be hard on myself,
So I better be hard on
so I
myself.
can stay in line.
So I can stay in
And
line.
even though I've been taught all that bullshit,
Even though I've been taught all that bullshit,
I choose to love and accept myself.
I choose to love and accept myself.
Even though I've been hard on myself,
Even though I've been hard on myself,
perhaps my whole life.
perhaps my whole life.
And I wouldn't know how not to be hard on myself.
And I wouldn't know how not to be hard on
I
myself.
wouldn't know how to begin.
I wouldn't know how to begin.
It seems like a daunting task.
It seems like a daunting task.
And even though it seems like a daunting task,
And even though it seems like a daunting task,
I'm willing to gently release this belief
I'm willing to gently release this belief
and deeply love and forgive myself.
and deeply love and forgive myself.
And those buggers who taught me to be hard on myself.
And as those others who taught me to be hard on myself.
Even though I might be addicted to beating myself up
Even though I might be addicted to beating myself up
and giving myself a hard time,
and giving myself a hard time,
I choose abstinence.
I choose abstinence.
I'm going cold turkey
I'm going cold turkey
on guilt tripping myself.
on guilt tripping myself.
And I have spirit
And I have spirit
to help me release this
to help me release this
like a hot potato.
like a hot potato.
I choose to drop guilt
I choose to drop guilt
because I recognize
because I recognize
it hurts
it hurts
and it has no value.
and has no
So
value.
I drop it
So I drop it
as I deeply love and honor myself.
because I deeply love and honor myself.
All this guilt,
All this guilt,
all this giving myself a hard time,
all this giving myself a hard
all this
time,
being hard on myself,
all this being hard on
I
myself,
choose to release it,
I choose to release it,
clearing it on a cellular level,
clearing it on a cellular level,
clearing it all the way back through my past,
clearing it all the way back to my past,
all the way back to the first time
all the way back to the first time
that I learned
that I learned
to feel separate,
to feel separate,
to feel ashamed,
to feel ashamed,
to feel like there's something wrong with me.
to feel like there's something wrong with me.
And I'm clearing it now.
I'm clearing it now.
Clearing it from my energy system,
I'm clearing it from my energy system,
withdrawing it from my memory bank,
withdrawing it from my memory bank,
releasing the energy
releasing the
of
energy
shame and guilt,
of shame and guilt,
being gentle with myself.
being gentle with
I'm
myself,
being very gentle with myself,
being very gentle with myself,
choosing to trust.
choosing to trust.
Gentleness heals,
Gentleness heals,
moves me forward.
moves me forward.
Choosing to trust.
Choosing to trust.
Love heals,
Love heals,
self-love heals.
self-love heals.
Going easy on myself
Going easy on myself
is a healing force
is a healing force
that needs no force,
that needs no force,
no violence,
no violence,
no pushing
no pushing
in order to heal.
in order to heal.
Love heals,
Love heals,
and nothing else heals.
nothing else heals.
Guilt cannot heal me.
Guilt cannot heal me.
It has no value,
It has no value,
so I let it go.
so I let it go.
Pushing myself
Pushing myself
has no value.
has no value,
It doesn't motivate me.
doesn't motivate me.
I let it go.
I let it go.
Loving myself
Loving myself
moves mountains,
moves mountains,
brings courage.
brings courage.
Being tender with myself
Being tender with
is the
myself
strength
is the strength
I've been looking for.
I've been looking for.
Looking for.
Being gentle with myself
Being gentle with
is
myself
the strength
is the strength
I've been looking for.
I've been looking for.
It has all the value.
Has all the value,
So I choose to focus
so I choose to focus
my intention
my attention
on this gentleness dimension.
on this gentleness dimension.
I give myself honorable mention
I give myself honorable mention
and heaps of praise
and heaps of praise,
day and night,
day and night,
night and day.
night and day.
I choose to validate
I choose to validate
that I'm A-OK.
that I'm A-okay,
I'm hot stuff.
I'm hot stuff,
I'm more than enough.
I'm more than enough.
And I don't have to hang tough.
I don't have to hang
There's
tough,
no need to be tough.
there's no need to be tough,
To strut my stuff.
just drop my stuff.
I'm already hot stuff.
I'm already hot stuff,
And it's okay to be gentle.
and it's okay to be
It's
gentle.
okay to be easy.
It's okay to be easy.
Being easy on myself
Being easy on
is a
myself
strength.
is
It's
strength,
a virtue.
a virtue.
It opens my heart.
It opens my heart,
Allows me to serve.
allows me to serve,
Allows me to prosper.
allows me to prosper.
Being easy on myself
Being easy on
is
myself
good for my health.
is good for my
It's
health,
good for my wealth.
it's good for my wealth.
And I choose it.
I choose it.
Choosing to be easy.
Choosing to be easy.
To take the easy way out.
To take the easy way out.
And the easy way in.
And the easy way
Because
in.
I've never sinned.
Because I've never sinned.
There's nothing wrong with me.
There's nothing wrong with
And
me.
there's nothing too good for me.
There's nothing too good for me.
I'm letting goodness in.
I'm letting goodness
I'm
in.
letting myself win.
I'm letting myself
I'm
win.
letting myself wear
I'm letting myself wear
a shift-eating grin.
a shift-eating grin.
Relaxing,
Relaxing,
releasing all guilt,
releasing all
and
guilt,
accepting my innocence.
accepting my innocence.
Nice deep breath. That was fun. Anybody want to report how that was for them? What you learned? Any questions?
It felt effective.
It felt effective.
I feel
Floaty. Very cool. Floaty is good. Just don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you come down to
I
it.
just want to
Float.
I just feel like I could just float right up.
Yes, you can.
Great.
While she's levitating, I'll call you.
I don't know exactly where it happened, but it was something released, because now I feel like I can really figure out what exactly I want
Uh-huh.
and manifest.
Well, that's brilliant, and I'm so excited to be part of that.
Yeah.
That's great. We all really support you in that.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah, I can tell just looking at your face.
Yeah, something released.
Whatever it is, you're back on the little engine that could.
Thank you.
You're like the poster child for EFT today.
Yeah, she is.
I don't know how or what, but something. Praise Jesus.
And I used to be one of those people that would analyze it to death.
Anyone else?
I,
Yes, Penny.
I don't know what I went through, but the first round when we were doing the tapping,
Yes.
I got so overwhelmingly sleepy
Sleepy, yeah.
that I was doing like this. But the second time around, it's sort of like I woke up. Maybe that's what it was. I've woken up to something. I just don't know.
It's very common that EFT will relax the body enough that you feel something that was already there, but that it was not being allowed to be felt. In other words, you could, like, if you tap when your body really needs a lot of rest, but you've got some coffee or whatever, you're not feeling very restful, and then you tap, you might suddenly feel exhausted, because that's what you're supposed to be feeling. You know, so it very well could be that.
Oh,
But
okay.
whatever it is, you moved on to the next feeling,
Yes,
and
I did.
that's what happens. Yeah,
Okay.
very cool.
Getting easier.
It's getting easier.
Yes, it is. I found this technique, or my brother taught me. And if there's ever any thought that you're emotionally charged about, you know, that isn't going to do you any good, and stuff, to just say, even though I feel this, or even though this is, I love and appreciate myself with the tapping. It kind of short circuits the emotional charge.
Yes.
And then even something you were like just totally worked up about it, all of a sudden it's like, what?
It's
So
the
what?
delete button on your emotional computer. It really, very quickly and powerfully can delete unwanted software.
I didn't look for that button. Now you know.
Now you know one of the tools. There's many on the planet. And when your willingness is present, the tool appears. Indeed. Anybody want to, we have about 15 more minutes, and I could open up to supporting somebody individually who's wanting to get some extra personal attention about something that's going on. I can tune into you, and I'm sure that would bless the whole group. Anyone? Yeah.
I have some major illnesses that I would love to release.
Very good. Are you willing to release them in front of the world on YouTube?
Not on YouTube.
Well, stay there. You won't be filmed.
Okay,
Your name is
Crystal.
Crystal.
Now I'm filmed.
Now you're doomed.
Now I'm filmed.
Oh, okay.
I'm the only Crystal here,
Oh, yeah.
but that's okay.
So, Crystal, a brief description of what's going on.
I just have many, many illnesses.
Many of them.
Yes, all the ones you don't want.
The big ones. Some of them would be called terminal by the world. Yeah.
Painful.
Painful. First of all, physical pain. And second of all, just it's scary business. Facing mortality and, and, without getting into the specifics of what's going on for you and what you're doing about it and what Western medicine is saying about it, and how much of it you're, buying, I do want to take you somewhere that if you're willing to go, it's really about comfort, feeling comforted at this time, because whether or not these illnesses take you to your next adventure, you don't have to be in fear and you don't have to be in resistance to what's going on. That's where you're in control. You can release the resistance. When you release the resistance, often the body heals. Sometimes it doesn't. This may be your soul's way of departure. And so there's no control about that, but there is control over how comfortable you can be and emotionally heal while this is happening. If you're up for it, I'll run through some EFT with you.
Yes.
And what would be really powerful is if everybody tapped, even though I'm going to be working directly with Crystal, and that's called Proxy tapping, and it really sort of creates this group, almost like a group synergy of prayer. It's just like prayer work that we all are going to join our energies. And so you'll be tapping, number one, to support Crystal, but number two is that you may have some of the issues in some form or another that Crystal is dealing with, and that this would actually be a way for you to also have some healing and have some release. So everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stand up for this. So, Crystal, tap where I tap. And if you allow me, if you give me permission, I will I will tune into you and your subconscious and help to excavate and release some of what is causing this to be unnecessarily painful. Okay? Permission granted.
Permission granted.
Okay, so some of the things I might say you might not even be in touch with.
Okay.
Like, whoa, where do you get that? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, so deep breath. Even though I'm scared of death,
Even though I'm scared of death,
and I'm even more scared of pain,
I'm even more scared of death.
and I hate this, I choose to love and accept myself. Even though I'm scared of death,
Even though I'm scared of death,
and I don't want to suffer,
and I don't want to suffer.
and I really hate this,
I really hate this.
I choose to love and forgive myself.
Choose to love and forgive myself.
Even though this is overwhelming,
Even though this is overwhelming,
tremendously overwhelming,
tremendously overwhelming.
like I don't have what it takes
Like I don't have what it takes
to cope with this,
to cope with this.
and it's really overwhelming,
It's really overwhelming.
and I'm facing a lot of fear.
I'm facing a lot of
And
fear.
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
Even though I don't want to die,
Even though I don't want to die,
I don't want this to be my time.
I don't want this to be my time.
I choose to love, honor, and accept myself.
I I choose to love, honor, and accept myself
and everyone else
and everyone else
who is facing challenges like mine
who is facing challenges like
all
mine
over the world.
all over the world.
Okay, if you can open your eyes and just be with me where the tapping is. All of this fear,
All of this fear,
all this fear of death,
all of this fear of death,
all this fear of pain.
all of this fear of pain.
I hate to suffer.
I hate to suffer.
I hate this pain.
I hate this pain.
I hate being unhappy.
I hate being unhappy.
I hate feeling like I don't have a future,
I hate feeling like I don't have a
that I don't
future,
have control
but I don't have control
over what's going on
over what's going on
in my body
in my body
and in my life.
and in my life.
I hate not being in control.
I hate not being in
It's
control.
really frustrating
It's really frustrating
and it's overwhelming.
and it's overwhelming.
All of this pain,
All of this pain,
all of this fear,
all of this fear,
all of this hatred.
all of this hatred.
And I'm choosing to let go of some of it
I'm choosing to let go of some
as much as I can
as much as I can
in this moment.
in this moment.
I'm asking Spirit
I'm asking Spirit
to take from me
to take from me
the burden
the burden
of all of this hatred,
of all of this hatred,
all this anger,
all of this anger,
all this fear.
all of this fear.
I'm letting it go.
Let my go.
With Spirit's help,
With Spirit's help,
I'm releasing all this heavy weight,
I'm releasing all this heavy weight,
like these boulders
like these boulders
rolling down the hill,
rolling down the hill,
off my back,
off my back,
out of my body.
out of my
All
body,
this heaviness,
all this heaviness,
all this heavy weight,
all this heavy weight,
out of my body,
out of my body,
lightening up,
lightening up,
releasing it on a cellular level.
releasing it on a cellular
This
level.
old fear of death,
This old fear of
this
death,
old fear of being out of control,
this old fear of being out of control,
clearing it from every fiber of my being. Because even if I'm facing death,
because even if I'm facing death,
I'm also facing grace.
I'm also facing grace.
Facing grace.
I'm facing grace.
This may not be the kind of grace
This may not be the kind of grace
that I consciously asked for,
that I consciously asked for,
but there is grace
but there is grace
in this suffering,
in this suffering,
in this letting go.
in this letting go,
And I'm letting go
and I'm letting go
of my resistance
of my resistance
to what's happening.
to what's happening.
I'm letting go
I'm letting go
of my resistance,
of my resistance.
this making it wrong,
This is making it wrong,
making all this illness wrong.
making all this illness
As
wrong.
if I'm stepping down
Stepping
and
down.
saying, no,
No.
how dare you?
How
How
dare,
dare this happen?
how dare this
This
happen?
is terrible.
This is terrible.
This shouldn't be happening.
Shouldn't be happening.
This should not be
This should not
happening.
be happening.
This righteous anger,
This righteous anger,
this righteous indignation,
this righteous
how
indignation,
dare you?
how dare you?
And I'm choosing to release
I'm choosing to release
this righteous anger.
this righteous anger.
This should not be happening.
This should not be happening.
Releasing that judgment,
I'm releasing judgment,
releasing that need for control,
releasing that need for control,
letting go of what it has to look like,
letting go of what it has to look like,
letting go of thinking
letting go of thinking
that this is my life,
this is my life,
that I've ever been in control.
that I've never been in control.
What a joke.
What a joke.
Because here I am,
Because here I am,
at the mercy of the court,
at the mercy of the
at the
Lord,
mercy of my source.
at the mercy of my source.
And if I don't let go,
And if I don't let go,
then I suffer.
then I suffer.
And I choose not to suffer.
I choose not to
I
suffer.
choose to stop resisting,
I choose to stop resisting.
start surrendering,
And start surrendering,
and making peace
making peace
with the uncertainty
with the uncertainty
that is always present.
that is always present.
There's always been a mystery.
It's always been a mystery.
I've never known how close
I've never known how close
I am to death.
I am to death.
And I don't know,
And I don't know,
even now.
even now,
And that's okay.
and that's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I'm making my peace.
I'm making my peace.
I'm asking for help.
I'm asking for help.
I'm asking for healing.
I'm asking for healing.
And I'm surrendering
And I'm surrendering
my demands
my demands
of what that healing
of what that healing
needs to look like.
needs to look like.
Instead of righteousness,
Instead of righteousness,
I choose peace
I choose peace
in body, mind, and spirit.
In body, mind, and
I
spirit.
choose peace.
I choose peace.
Deep breath. How was that for you, Crystal?
I feel a little lighter.
A little lighter. Glad.
More relaxed.
Anybody have any comments? I think at the core of so much suffering is this belief this should not be happening, or I'm being punished, is another very popular one, you know, that this is a punishment. And maybe after a lifetime of punishing yourself, you know, that hard on yourself energy, that the body is trying to help you release that whole frame of reference. Yeah. So we're just about ready to say bye-bye. I'll sing a closing song. I do want to say a few things, logistically speaking, promotionally speaking. Those of you who want further study with EFT, you can get really good at it by YouTubing it. There's so many wonderful teachers of EFT who have free YouTubes. My favorite is Brad Yates. You can go to his YouTube channel, just Google Brad Yates YouTube and it'll take you right there. And you can just like, I mean, he's like 400 YouTubes of, you know, healing grief, healing pain. He has one called Tap of the Morning, which is like, you know, setting your intentions through EFT. Tap of the Evening, releasing the stress of the day. That's one of my favorites. Then there's a woman named, God, she's really good. I have a few. Margaret Lynch. Margaret Lynch, she's like known as the no-nonsense, bring up the shadow kind of energy. She's really good at bringing up the deep doo-doo. And then there's me. I have the playful Dr. Seuss type of tapping videos for those that like it light. What else do I want to say? I give coaching sessions over the phone or Skype. And if anybody feels a calling or an inspiration to get more help, the coaching sessions are recorded and they end with a song that I channel for you, that I actually record, that you can play. Yeah, I send you the MP3 so you can play your own healing song over and over again. And I do a half-an-hour free coaching session for people who want a taste. So you can set that up with me if you're interested. So that's it. There's a lot of information out there about EFT. And I want to encourage you to keep tapping. I actually tap every day. I don't miss a day. And at least twice, you know, morning and then again at night. And it has become the addiction that has helped me release a lot of other addictions. Yeah. And I want to encourage you not to judge people who are having easy times with money, easy lives. When you see ease, bless it. Bless it, trust it, and say, that's for me. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for some of that. I'm an ambassador of ease. Yes?
I feel different. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel different.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's a good different.
Yeah. Yeah. Brad Yates does have at least one video for you know, healing the body. You know, I forget what it's called, but you know, you'll find it. And others have in this one. Final questions or comments? Yes?
Is this called excess also?
Is it called what?
Excess.
No, that's different.
That's a different tool.
Did you say excess?
Access.
I do it to excess, but. Oh, you said access.
Well, is it also called, what's it? NPT? Neuro something?
No, neuro-linguistic programming is slightly different. Then there's something also called EMDR, which is slightly different. There's a lot of similar tools. I present at conferences called energy psychology conferences. The field is called energy psychology. It's where these new techniques and modalities are being birthed and distributed. But EFT is probably the most popular one, probably the most simple and easy to learn.
What does it stand for again?
Emotional freedom technique. Yeah. You betcha. EFT has become my LSD.
I love your new practices.
Oh, thank you. So let's sing. What shall I sing? Something fun. All right. Why don't you give me the first line, Penny? Give me the first line in a song. I'm going to make it up.
Today is the first day of the rest of my life.
Today is the first day of the rest of my life. The best of my life is yet to come. Today's my rebirth day of the best of my life. The success of my life is around the bend. I let it in. No more suffering, 'cause I have never sinned and I only deserve love and ease. I'm here to do the things I please and graciously, gratefully receive. Easy does it, and I love it when I let it be light. 'Cause today is the first day of the rest of my life. Today's my rebirth day of the best of my life. My heart and soul have got a hearty appetite for living with gusto and choosing to trust. Oh, love, I love to trust love. Thank you, Isaiah, for staying and taping, and thank you to Dwayne, if you're still in the room out there. Hey, he is waving his hand. He acknowledges that I've acknowledged him, and I acknowledge you all for having a ball with me and letting ease tickle your fancies. Let's all be tickled by ease. Easy does it. Easy will do it every time. It's safe to take it easy. When you love yourself and when you trust, you don't need to go to Workaholics Anonymous.